of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. And the songs of all my great grandmothers and the dreams of all my great grandfathers and the way to rise beyond the pain. All live, live in me. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. And the smiles of all the unborn children and the dream of a better day to come and the dance of heaven with the earth. All live, live in me. Land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. Been robbed and displaced, abused and disgraced. Been robbed and disgraced, abused and disgraced. Been lied to. Lies can be seen through in the land. You can't fall from grace in the land. You cannot be heard in the land. There's more than enough in the land. Always at home, always at home, always at home, always at home, always at home. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. Songs of all my great grandmothers and the dreams of all my great grandfathers and the way to rise beyond the pain. All live, live in me.
Good morning and welcome to our live stream for this Sunday, March the 28th, 2021. Thank you always for being with us as a part of this Heartstream live celebration and all that you do to make it possible. And I'm going to ask you this morning is that when you see our post on social media about this Heartstream celebration, that you would share it, to invite your friends to join you and to see this experience that we have today. The word is getting out and we're growing as I look at the statistics for our live streaming, as I also, even with our prayer call, our daily prayer call, that there are many people that are tuning in. A lot of people think only 1 or 2 people are on the call because that's all they hear when they first get on. But people join in when the calls are muted, and I can see those who have joined and people calling from different places around the country to be a part of what it is that we offer. We have great things here as a part of Open Heart, and you are a part of that, and we want to share the good news of who we are. Thank you for all of your support, all of your encouragement, all of your prayers, and everything else that help to make us who we are. I want to take this time now to do our evocation as we turn within. We take a breath. We release this breath knowing the one presence and power of the universe, that is God. God is faithful. God is sure and present in all that we do. God continues to flow and to animate and give life to all things. I know that I am one with God. I am one with all that is, that I am one with the divine flow and the presence and power of God. And I know the same is true for each and every person. I know that today, as we move forward in this Heartstream Live celebration, that all that occurs here, from the music and the affirmative reading, the message, and all else that takes place here, is a true blessing to each and every person that receives it with open hearts and open minds. That not only are the people who are watching and experiencing it here now, but the energy that reverberates from this Heartstream, the energy that resonates and goes forth from here, continues to touch lives and continues to make a difference in this world. I remember all of those who are on our prayer list and see each and every one of them as healthy, whole, complete, knowing their oneness, knowing their wholeness, knowing their perfection. I continue to remember our nation and all of the things that are taking place here and now, and how God's presence makes itself known in each and everything, even adverse situations and circumstances. I move beyond this country, this nation, and go throughout the world, seeing all of the world and the beauty of the world and the beauty of the people who populate this planet and this wonderful planet itself that is a part of this dynamic universe, and knowing all is well. In spite of it, all is well. I'm grateful and thankful for this opportunity on this very spring day, in the aftermath here of all of the storms and the winds and the tornado warnings and everything else, that there's an opportunity now to hear the birds singing, the sun shining, and the reminders that even though things sometimes will seem dark and stormy and troublesome, that there is something better and something greater. With joy and gratitude for knowing this truth, I release my word into the creative medium. I give thanks for this day. I know all is well, and so it is. I greet you. I bless you. I see God in you. Our theme this month is March Sameness. And our affirmation, I realize a greater truth that comes from within me as being the absolute. I anchor into this knowing because the higher wisdom self within me is constantly guiding me and directing my paths, making every crooked path straight. I acknowledge God in all my ways and believe that the voice I hear within me is God. I know it's sound. I realize it's called to action. I abide in the truth of my higher wisdom self, and I celebrate in the joy that all things are working together for the good.
morning. Today's affirmative reading is from the Daily Word. I am an original. I am blessed with unique blends of talents and interests that have helped me find my special place in the world. As I've traveled my path, I've learned from people I've met, places I've visited, and the choices I've made. Together, my experiences have helped me shape my perspective, fuel my passions, and give meaning to my life. Like everyone, I am a spiritual being, but I am also an individual, expressing my divinity in ways that are unique to me. No one is exactly like me, and I give thanks today for all the ways I can share my spiritual nature, innate gifts, and blend of life experience through my relationships, my work, and my service. I am an original, and it is my joy to share myself and make the world a better place. We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, prophecy in proportion to faith. Romans 12:6.
Good morning. These are your announcements.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Just have a happy day.
At Open Heart, we believe in the power of affirmative prayer. We're setting the mental equivalent for healing, comfort, strength, and wholeness for all these persons you see on our list. We're holding space for you, and we know that it's already done in the mind of God. Okay, so I'm asking for a do-over. Last week, because of various problems, we didn't have our wine and words. I was there online waiting for everybody else, and nobody logged on. And people were texting me saying they couldn't get in. I didn't get the messages. And so I thought everybody decided not to do it. So I logged off and shut things down, only to find out later that people couldn't get in touch with me and couldn't get in. So we're going to do it again this week. This Thursday, April the 1st at 6:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, our Wine and Words, where we reflect on 1 year of the pandemic. Please join us. You can join us with your wine or favorite beverage of choice, whatever it might be. But more importantly, we're looking for your thoughts and your reflections on this year, how things have been for you, and also your hopes for the future. I hope you will join us. And the one thing I will say is we will be prepared this time, and it's going to happen. It's going down. Join us on Thursday. How do you meditate? What is mindfulness? These questions and more are being discussed in our virtual book study led by Villa Willis, our assistant spiritual director and minister. This group meets each second Thursday of the month. The book they're using is The Headspace Guide to Meditation and Mindfulness by Andy Puddicombe. On Tuesdays at 12:30 p.m., we have been having our Love Grid meditation led by Britannia Allen, Howard Thurman, who said how good it is to center down, and we've been doing that. And we will do it this Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. We invite you to join us. And unfortunately, this will be the last Love Grid meditation for a while. Britannia has asked, and she is working on reimagining it, retooling it. So we will meet on this Tuesday, and then we will take a break. And we will let you know when we come back, when we resume the meditation sessions. And it will probably be in a different form, a different shape. But we want to say thank you to Britannia for her providing leadership for this each and every week. And we ask that you would join us this Tuesday. Thank you, Lily Williams, for today's affirmative reading. And yes, you too can do the same by recording yourself doing an affirmative reading and sending me the video so that we can include you in the live stream. Hope to see yours very, very soon. Start your day, or for some people, continue your day with our daily affirmative prayer call. It takes place each and every morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. Dial in, and one of our prayer team members shares an inspirational reading and then prays for you. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am richly blessed, creating a greater and greater flow. Thank you for all of you who continue to give, reminding you of our conscious giving. You can do so via our app. You can go to our website and click on the Give button, or you can text the word GIVE to 615-422-4292.
Dr. Barbara L. King, affectionately called Dr. Barbara, was the founder of Hillside International Truth Center Incorporated of Atlanta, Georgia, a New Thought, inclusive healing ministry open to all people. Hillside began in 1971 with a prayer group of 12 individuals in Dr. Barbara's home and now has thousands of members and supporters worldwide. She began following her dream of becoming a minister as the program administrator at Christ Universal Temple, Chicago, under her spiritual mentor, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. She was a professionally trained social work administrator, has served as Dean of Community Relations at Malcolm X College in Chicago, and was a college instructor as well as Dean of Students at Spelman College in Atlanta. Dr. Barbara was the first non-psychiatrist director of the Emory Mental Health Center, which was headquartered in the Southside Comprehensive Health Center in Atlanta. In 2001, Dr. Barbara received the highest honor bestowed upon a woman in Africa. Through elaborate ceremonies, rituals, and prayers, she became the first female to be installed as a chief at Asin Nsuta, Ghana, West Africa. Her stool name is Nana Ya'a Tunwa'a, the first. Nana means chief, Ya'a means Thursday's child, a child with special spiritual power, special energy, and special courage. Tunwa'a is related to the name of Ya'a Asuntwa, a national hero to the Ashanti people of Ghana. In recognition of nearly 50 years of service to thousands at Hillside and throughout the world, the International College of Bishops assembled and consecrated Dr. Barbara to the Bishop's Sacred Office in 2010. She made history as the first New Thought minister to receive that honor. In 2019, the Interfaith Chapel at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport was named the Dr. Barbara Lewis King Interfaith Chapel. Within the New Thought community, she was awarded the three highest honors: the International New Thought Alliance Life Achievement Award, the Ernest Holmes Religious Science Award, and Unity's The Light of God Expressing Award. When asked how she would like to be remembered, Dr. Barbara said, "For my personal commitment to touch someone's life and help them to see their very special talent to be given to the world as only they can do." Dr. King loved butterflies. Like the butterfly, she believed that all of us were continually evolving. Her legacy is one of truth-telling, truth-teaching, truth-preaching, and truth-living. In 2020, at the age of 90, the influential King died at her home. Dr. Barbara authored 10 books and monographs, including the widely acclaimed Transform Your Life. She is also a major contributor to A New Thought for a New Millennium and Wake Up, Live the Life You Love in Spirit.
When you live a spirit-filled life, when love is the ultimate with you, when you have compassion for people regardless of race, color, creed, that you can live an abundant life.
Reverend Dr. Ruth Mosley. A practical visionary, she turned dreams into realities. The first child of Miles and Versie Newborn, Ruth Mosley was born in 1930 in Olive Branch, Mississippi. There, everything was segregated, including the churches. Ruth attended Halliburton Baptist. One day, while still a child, she found a copy of Unity magazine. It spoke of God as love, leaving Mosley to ponder whether there were actually two gods, one that was discriminating, jealous, vengeful, and the other that was pure love with no consideration for one's skin color or economic status. Mosley thought about this often. Mosley had 2 sons in her early teens and had to leave school. In search of a better life, she left them with her parents and moved to Memphis to work for a wealthy white family. On Sundays, she attended a church where the bishop's messages were much like what she had read in the Unity pamphlet. It was this preacher who encouraged Mosley to move to Detroit for better opportunities. Being so far from her family was hard, but she found work and began attending Detroit Unity Temple. She met and married William Mosley. He adopted her sons and the two had a daughter. The marriage ended after 2 decades. She later had 2 happy marriages, both ending with early passing of her husbands. While at Unity, Ruth came to believe that all things work together for good. She knew that her true calling was to serve others. Armed with truth, principles, and determination, Mosley understood that she needed an education. She earned a GED and a bachelor's degree. In the early 1960s, Mosley attended Unity School of Religious Studies. In 1964, beginning from a small study group, she founded West Side Unity in Detroit, appropriately located on Joy Road. She was ordained in 1966. She gave radio talks and established an after-school program. In 1978, her teacher, Reverend Johnny Coleman, published an article in Ebony magazine pointing out the discrimination and prejudice Black people experienced in Unity. Officials at Unity Village asked Mosley's opinion of the piece and what could be done. At that time, there were only 10 Black Unity ministers. Knowing that the Unity system for licensing teachers and ordaining ministers was stacked against Black people, with tests biased in favor of whites, she pointed out that these discriminatory practices were counter to Unity teachings. Reverend Mosley said, "We need our own school." With Unity approval but no funding, she put feet to her prayers and moved forward. Unity Urban Ministerial School was opened in 1979 with a curriculum designed by Reverend Mosley. The first 8 students spent 3 years at the school before spending their final year at Unity Village. The program Ruth built continues strong. In 2008, it became the first online Unity School ministerial program. Graduates serve in inner city and suburban churches all across the country. In 1982, Reverend Mosley was elected president of the board of the Association of Unity Churches. She later earned both a master's and doctorate of divinity and wrote several books. She continued to serve by practicing the truth she knew, relating back to the Unity pamphlet where she first learned God is love. Reverend Mosley made her transition in Memphis on November 8, 2020, at age 90. In the care facility where she spent her final days, she shared those truths with all who had ears to listen.
For the past 4 weeks, you have been seeing our series about women in New Thought. And I want to take the opportunity to thank Judy Card, Carolyn Head for their compiling the history. They took the opportunity to go and research the lives of these wonderful women and to then put those together in a narrative form that we could add to the slides. I know that when the idea first came, the thought was that those two, with the background that they have of being librarians, would come in handy. And I know last week I had a conversation during the Women's of Achievement event with one of my university colleagues who said everybody needs a good librarian in their lives. And we're fortunate to have two great librarians, and I want to thank them for what they did in putting this together. And it really was on relatively short notice, but they got the task and they eagerly went to work and they brought us the things that we have been able to produce for you each and every week. I also want to thank my wife, Emma Crystal, for providing the narration. She's a businesswoman. She's running her own massage therapy business, and she's been seeing clients all of this time. Not only that, she has been directing and choreographing one show and doing choreography for another show, and yet she found time also to do the narrations each week, to sit down out of her schedule, taking time out of her schedule, and also putting up with me to be able to do the narration for this, and I truly appreciate her contribution. My daughter, Shelly Gilmore, is listed here. We didn't have quite the way for her to work out, for things to work out that we originally imagined, but in the initial stages of this, we had conversations about how things should be put together and all of that, and I'm appreciative to her for that as well. And I also want to give thanks and express thanks for the women that we profiled this month, for all the contributions that they have made that have brought about things in our lives that continue to reverberate and resonate with us, their teachings, their faithfulness, their prayers, all of the work that they put in that bring us where we are today. This has been a fantastic month. This is not the end of us seeing this, but I'm so grateful for all of it. It's been a wonderful, wonderful Women's History Month, and for us to do our part in recognizing the contribution of some very, very powerful women.
The sound of the tone invoke all that is of God, of love, of light, as we prepare our hearts for this sacred time. In our celebration, love, light, joy, togetherness, oneness, and spirit moving in as and through us all. Welcome, welcome, sweet spirit. And so it is.
Just breathe. Remember to breathe. Just breathe. All around me, everywhere. Seems like nothing but despair, confusion, disillusion, hanging in the air. Global melancholy smears a stain across the sky. Somewhere right now someone's crying, and I don't know why, but I gotta believe that this ain't the end of the road. It's all a bad dream until I believe, and I gotta know the story is still to be told. Just breathe, remember to breathe. I held my four-leaf clover clutch tightly in my hand. The things I thought were useful, I just don't understand. So I click my heels 1,000 times and open my eyes. I just don't know why. I don't know why. I just can't breathe. Woo. With all that's going on around me, I just don't know why. Why my heart remembers to keep on looking toward the sky. I gotta believe it's gonna be alright. Can't you see? You got to believe. You gotta know the story is still being told.
Remember to breathe.
Got to believe it's gonna be alright. Can't you see? You got to believe. You have got to know the story is still being told. Remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. You gotta believe me. Breathe. If you take the time to breathe right now, breathe in, breathe out. Take a second to breathe from the bottoms of your feet. Breathe.
What's on the card?
There is a Zen story about a man who went to a teacher asking him to school him in the ways of Zen, to teach him about the Zen tradition. And when he got there, he, being a very learned man, began talking to the teacher and giving his ideas and opinions about what Zen was all about. The teacher sat there for a while, and then he invited the man to have some tea. And as they sat down to have tea, the teacher offered to pour the man tea, and he began pouring the tea. And he continued to pour, and he continued to pour, and he continued to pour. And the tea filled up the cup, but the teacher continued to pour. And the tea ran out on the table, and it began running across the table, and it spilled down onto the floor and into the man's lap and everywhere. And finally the man said, "Stop, enough, enough." The teacher very calmly sat back, and he said to him, "You came to me asking to learn about Zen. And yet, the whole time that you have been here, you have been like this cup. You have been so full that there is nothing that I can give you. Only when you become empty are you able to receive. And our title for this morning's message is Mindful. Not mindful in the way that our assistant minister, spiritual director, Villa Willis is talking about mindful and mindfulness, but mindful. That state of affairs where our minds become so full of opinions, so full of the chaos and the worries and all of the things that are happening these days, all that we are experiencing, when our minds become so full that it becomes difficult to really know what it is and who we are. So full that it becomes a way of making us feel more and more of the insanity of the world. That's part of the reason why I titled this month's theme, March Sameness. That in the midst of the NCAA basketball championship season that's been dubbed March Madness, I felt like there was time for March Sameness. Because after all, I've talked about the fact that it's been an entire year since we have been doing this Heartstream live celebration, a year since we have had to, for many of us, remain at home and to work from home or to take social distancing seriously, an entire year in which there at first had only been a few weeks we thought that we would need to isolate ourselves and socially distance ourselves and be safe at home. And here, after an entire year, all of the deaths, the nearly 600,000 deaths here in the United States and many, many millions worldwide, and then the vaccine coming along, well, all of the madness, the insanity that was taking place and has taken place in the midst of all of that, the need to have some sanity, some saneness, some being able to empty our minds and not let our minds be full. And it's so easy for that to happen. I thought about the fact of this story, of not only did this story resonate with me, but how I had a more modern experience of this myself. There was a young lady who had been hired by one of the community organizations that I have a lot of respect for. I've done work with them. I've been a member of their board and all of that. And we discovered that she was from the town that I grew up in. And so excitedly, she called me and wanted to have a meeting to talk about the city of Memphis and the things that maybe she could look for, ways in which I might be able to help her as she was settling into her new job and all of those kinds of things. And I was delighted too, because I thought maybe I might know some of her people. Maybe we might be able to share experiences, even though she was much younger. And so we met at a coffee shop and we sat down. And as we got there at the table and we got our coffee and we started our conversation, the entire time she was scrolling on her phone and she was looking at things there and responding back to text messages. And we were there to have a conversation, but I had very little opportunity to say much to her. And even the things I said to her, it was obvious that it was going in one ear and out of the other because she was so consumed by the device that was in her hand. And when I finally called her attention to it, she made up the excuse that she was trying to get an Uber so that when our meeting was over, she could get certain places and all. But I saw in that moment again what can happen for us, even in this day and time, the ways in which we can be like that man long ago in that Zen story, where we get so caught up and so consumed by the things that are happening that we miss the things that are much greater and more important and fuller for us if we would just allow ourselves to be open and available to all that is. It's important in this day and time that we take the opportunity to open our minds and receive. I'm teaching a course in sociology, And one of the things, it's a concept in sociology that's called the sociological imagination. And what that really is about is understanding the intersection between our personal history and the history of humankind, the history of the world, and where we would be had we been born at particular times, and all of the developments and the innovations and things that have happened, that have occurred in that place. But one of the parts of the sociological imagination, one of the things that sociologists have said that's necessary to gain this sociological imagination is a beginner's mind. Yes, what Bernard McCrane has developed, the idea from Zen Buddhism, a beginner's mind. And that is approaching situations and circumstances as if it's our first time encountering them. It's about emptying ourselves and not being so full of things, not being so caught up in things that we become open to receive, open and available to the insights and to the wisdom and to all that is available to us if we would just be still. I think about one of my favorite prophets and story about him in the Hebrew scriptures, the prophet Elijah. Elijah was on the run. He had angered Jezebel, and Jezebel had dispatched her agents to find Elijah and to execute him, to put him to death. And Elijah had things happen to him as he was on the run. And he finally found himself settled into a cave, frightened, fearful, afraid of what was going to befall him. And in the midst of that, he heard a voice that asked him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And in that conversation, he started to talk about his fears and to talk about all of the things that had consumed him, the worry that was his, the trouble that was his, the things that were occupying his mind. And in that moment, he received instruction that he would finally know in a more personal and powerful way the presence and the voice of God. And it instructed him to go out to the mouth of the cave. And when he did, suddenly a mighty strong wind came up, a wind that was so powerful that it actually started breaking rocks up and moving things around in such a way. But what the scripture tells us, that God was not in that strong wind in the way that Elijah was looking for. And then immediately after that came a powerful earthquake that was moving things again, and that was causing the ground beneath Elijah's feet to be unstable and was frightening. And if you've ever experienced an earthquake, you can know how unsettling it is. And in all of that, still, God's voice, God, the knowing of God wasn't quite there. And then a fire came, a mighty fire. Its heat, its ferocity, all of that came also, but yet again, it wasn't there. And then after all of those powerful and loud and chaotic and boisterous things happened, it was a still, small voice that came. And it assured Elijah. It let Elijah know that in that moment, no matter what might be happening around him, no matter what he might have experienced that was chaotic, traumatic, troublesome, all of the things that he had experienced in those moments that drove him that cave, all of that he experienced when he was at the mouth of the cave, that still small voice helped him to know that all is well. The psalmist reminds us, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know that I am God. There is something to be said when we empty our minds, when we come to that place and that space of being still, where we take the time in our daily lives in the midst of everything else, to become still, to become open, to become reflective and introspective, to begin to see the things that can come to us when we are in that attitude, when we take that awareness in our lives. This month, we have honored the memories of some very powerful women in New Thought. And one of the things as I reflected over each of their lives as I was working to put this together with the assistance of some wonderful people, Judy Card, Carolyn Head, Emma Crystal. And as I did those things, I started to look at the lives of those women. And I realized just how much they accomplished in the midst of so much else. Most of them had debilitating illnesses. In fact, many of them from birth had illnesses that kept them from living full lives. It hindered them in many different ways. And even if it wasn't an illness, they had other obstacles put in their way because of the color of their skin or other things that happened there where they weren't allowed the same opportunities as other people. But each of them, despite these overwhelming odds, were able to use, and if you look at the descriptions of them, each of them, first of all, through the power of affirmative prayer, that as they continue to know in their lives the presence and the power of God. And in talking about prayer again, so often we think of prayer as being that we bring ourselves in an awareness of God and we have all of these questions and we have all of these requests and we have all of these other things. And again, that's in the same way, like being in the presence and awareness of God and doing so, and we're so full of things that we aren't able to ultimately receive. But in this moment, they found themselves being prayerful using affirmative prayer, but in the whole essence and idea of that, also taking the time to listen, to participate in what Joel Goldsmith calls the thunder of silence. And then using affirmations to continue to know the truth, to affirm the truth. And it's important that as we always talk about affirmations, that affirmations are not just something, phrases that we say that are about truths that we are affirming, but affirmations are a way of setting in our minds the mental equivalent, what it is that we wish to experience in our lives, and saying those things over and over again, even in the midst of that which would seemingly be the opposite. But more importantly, with affirmations, that we feel deep inside the truth, that we begin saying that. And a way that we do that, again, is by taking the opportunity to empty our minds and to be focused on that thing, to be focused on those things, and to do so with unrelenting attention and intention and energy. Because where, again, attention and intention go, energy flows, God shows up. The ideas and the resources and all of the other answers that we need come to us when we recognize and realize these things. And then getting the ideas that came to them and acting on those ideas, moving forth with the ideas. That it's important for us to remember these things, to recognize these things in this month where we have celebrated their wonderful lives. And if you think about it, that they didn't just live those lives, but they left legacies that we in many ways are the beneficiaries of. That we even today, not only are we talking about them, but we're living the teachings that they shared. We're seeing the legacies that they left for us. And we have the opportunity today to continue to have this sense of purpose, this sense of awareness, this sense of knowing, this opportunity that you and I have today, that in the midst of all that is taking place, that we can, with a sense of joy and anticipation, recognize and realize, just as Elijah did, just as they did, that they are not alone, that you and I are not alone, but that we are endowed with the power and the presence of God, the ideas that Spirit provides with us, the creative energy that is ours, the opportunity to thrive in the midst of things that are happening around us, the way to be able to continue to be successful in the things that we wish to do. All of the ways in which we have been able to shift, and the ways in which we have been able to pivot and to make a way in the midst of what is happening. We celebrate those things today. I celebrate those things with you, and I remind you of the fact that as you remain steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in God's word, meaning that which is flowing to you, the ideas, the creativity, the thoughts, the insights, the reflectiveness, as you remain steadfast in that, as you continue to go forth in that and remain earnest about that, all of the things that continue to happen, that you can bring your mind in perfect peace as you stay focused on these things. All is well. And as we move forward into this next year, these upcoming months, not knowing what it all will bring for us, not knowing when it is that we might be able to get together in person as a spiritual center, we continue to have hope. We continue to have that sense of knowing that all continues to be well. No matter what might have been the circumstances or the situation, all is well. It continues to be so, and so it is.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, gotta let it go. Gotta let it all go. Are you listening? You got to let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, Yes, I'm only here for God. I know.
I thank you for being so real and